Okay, Vice Mayor, you can take it away.
Thank you, Jessica. I'd like to call to order the Monday, June 16th, 2024 City Manager Evaluation Committee meeting. It is just after 4 o'clock. And if the clerk will note the attendance.
Actually, Vice Mayor, just as a correction, it
Yes,
says
ma'am.
Monday, June 16th on the agenda, but today is
But
actually
it's
June
the
17th.
17th. It is the
Yes.
17th. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So if Vicky will note the attendance, the first order of business that we have on our agenda today is public comment. Jessica, do we have anyone wishing to make public comment?
We do not have anyone in the waiting room at this time.
All right, very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I would ask for the approval of the minutes from the February 14th meeting of the City Manager Evaluation Committee meeting.
Move for approval.
Motion
Support.
by Commissioner Reynolds, support by Commissioner Morris. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes are approved. I, at this time, am going to turn things over to Rebecca to talk about the review of the 2022-23 work plan, and then review of the 24-25 work plan, and just move through our agenda.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Thank you, Commissioners. I appreciate your time this afternoon. We're kind of at a little bit of an awkward place because we're in between the 2022-2023 work plan and the 2024-2025 work plan. Only because we'll need to decide in this committee if it's ready to go forward for formal approval of the City Commission. So when I was talking through this with my senior leadership team, we felt it best to go ahead and update the work plan based on the proposed 24-25 plan. The commissioners have had that plan for several months now, and as you'll note, many of the projects that were in the 2022-2023 work plan have moved forward into 2024-2025. Not that we didn't get some things done, and it's always exciting when we can put completed and, on a project, but many of them, as you know, would encompass several fiscal years. And so we'll continue to update accordingly. So I'll leave that up to the committee discussion, Vice Mayor, to decide if it's ready to move forward for formal approval by the commission. But in the meantime, I'll just give some highlights because there's a lot of information here. I mean, this is a 2-year work plan, but it's really our roadmap for the next 2 years to make sure that these are the bigger projects. These are not the normal routine things that our departments and our team members do on a daily basis. These are kind of some of those bigger projects that tend to be multiple year, but also tend to be very visible. Many, I'm sure commissioners hear about, many my office hears about, and et cetera. So that's really how we put the work plan together. And, I have to give kudos to all of my department directors and Ted. They help me making sure that we give you the most up-to-date information that we can on all these projects, because, it's part of the work that we do every day and it's in our DNA, but really couldn't do this work without the fabulous senior leadership team that includes Ted and so many others. So as we work through this, you already get a regular ARPA update. So you know that the ARPA city projects are advancing. So one of the reports that attaches is the ARPA staff report that is specifically focused on city projects, but it also gives you where we are with the community projects. So while some of them seem like they've taken forever, others are finally getting off the ground because there's so much pre-work that has to happen. The communal kitchens is one of them. We kind of thought we weren't going to get any, and it looks like we're going to get three have submitted application and are moving forward. So those are good things. I think the one thing I want to say about ARPA projects is all of those have to be obligated, whether it's a city project or a community project, by December 31st of 2024. That used to seem like a really far off date, but here we sit, June 6th or June 17th, 2024, and December doesn't seem so far away.
Mhm.
And so that's what our teams are working to be sure that we've obligated all of our ARPA money by December 31st. Because what we're hearing at the federal level is if it's not, they're going to claw it back. The federal government will claw the amounts back. I understand. But I often remind both our state treasury department and our federal treasury department but we have until 12/31 of 2026 to spend it. So, it's not, we will get it obligated, but it's been a very interesting process. And there I must lift up our finance team, particularly Barb Deering and Aaron Kuhn, who have to relentlessly work with Treasury on making sure all of our reporting is current and that we understand their definition of obligated versus ours. I think we're there, but we're meeting on that on a regular basis. So some of the things you'll see in the work plan do include projects that have been identified to use ARPA projects, and we're trying to utilize that in the best way. I think the team is probably sick of me saying, but I want to spend somebody else's money before we have to spend ours. And ARPA has been a big help for that. I think other things I want to call out in updates from the work plan is the amazing work our small business development team is doing, the number of grants, mini grants that they're getting out there to help businesses either maintain or we've recruited them or they're expanding has just been tremendous. When you're talking about a team of 3 people that serves at least 60 businesses, that's a lot. And so kudos goes out to that team. And we've heard a lot of positive feedback on the help for architectural assistance, doing some of those code reviews before anybody else invests money into a property or a business. We're trying to get reminding people to do that on the front end. So you don't get, halfway into something and then all of a sudden you're realizing, oh, that's not a use for this building or in this zoning. We don't want people to get there. So continually working that we're communicating that. Whoops, sorry. I'm on 3 screens and I'm like, okay, where did that one go? So in your PDF document, you don't have kind of the tabs that you normally get in Excel, but everything kind of runs together. So what I was just highlighting is things around the economy tab. But I'm going to move into kind of the safety tab now. I think you saw a press release go out today that Chief Bagley is working on setting up kind of a traffic deployment. We've had multiple complaints about a variety of traffic violations. That's anywhere from speeding to apparently traffic signals have become just guidelines now because we have a lot of complaints about people blowing through red lights, drag racing and those types of things. So I think Chief Bagley and his team are trying to get on top of it as much as they can here at the beginning parts of summer. We know more people are out and about in the summer, which to me makes it more important that people are more driving safely and, following the control measures that we have to protect people. But no, not necessarily. So they certainly know where we have some of these hot spots and they will be kind of deploying some of their traffic teams accordingly. So I know many of you are hearing it. And again, where we can, while officers are on duty, we are trying to do some some direct traffic patrolling. But we can't be everywhere. We keep track of data and calls, so we'll continue to monitor that. So that really has been a lot of the feeling safe, particularly from a traffic perspective. And then continuing the service with our lead programs. What is so unique about us right now is not only do we handle lead in a person's home when it's of a certain age, and we know that lead paint has been used at some point in that home's history, we've got a phenomenal team and we've been very successful with state grant funds to be able to address lead-based paint issues, that mainly affect children. So when we get notice from the county health department that we've got a child and or a family with elevated lead levels in their blood, it's often from paint. And it can get very confusing because those who are concerned about lead, they're thinking the Flint water crisis and they're thinking water, not necessarily paint. Well, those are 2 very different issues. Lead is lead, but those are 2 very different issues. So our community development team handles the lead-based paint in the homes, but our DPW teams is handling replacement of the, the thousands of city lines that were originally installed with lead. And we have two great teams. We've been very successful in both areas to get grants from the state to be able to help us do that. And yes, Michigan has mandated that communities have their lead lines replaced by a certain date. And I think we're still well above the schedule to do that if everything remains the same. As soon as we dig up a line, it's not the same as if we dug it up right next door to your neighbors. There's always a little something that we have to do, but kudos to our DPW team and our community development team who are out there in our community doing our best to get rid of anything that would have lead in it, paint or utility lines. Okay, let me go down a little bit more. Even I think this is a little bit small print. And I've got my contacts that are multifocal. From the fire perspective, we are continuing our conversations around the fire facilities, and that's noted in there that we've completed all the conversations. Now we're meeting with Cody, the architect, Chief Beatty and myself to prepare our notes and recommendations to the commission. The way this month is going, my guess is we will not be able to have that workshop until July, but no date has been set aside yet for that. So ongoing conversations about fire facilities. Excuse me. I think I pretty much hit the utilities. I think the only other thing I wanted to say is, in this area in economic vitality is just the amazing progress we are making with the river naturalization. Ted and I were just talking about it when we first started hearing about this, right when he and I came on board, we're like, probably it's cool, but probably not in our lifetime. Now we're actually saying with the amount of partners that have been brought together and with the tremendous help from Battle Creek Unlimited, that is a very possibility in our lifetime, and it will be exciting for Battle Creek. So a lot of work is continuing there, and actually our own DPW is now at a point where they can engage one of our consultants to help with that project to actually get to the design phase. So that's just a really exciting project, and you pair that with the demolition of GPI, which, we were sad to see jobs leave, but what a great area to think about revitalization. And then we are all anxiously awaiting the opening of the McCamley Doubletree Hotel at the end of August. So really cool stuff going on, and all this interconnectivity is really wonderful. And I was just talking with Joe Sobrowski the other day, and I was talking with representatives from Bronson, how much they love the fact that we're all in conversations together. So if something happens over here, they'll be like, yeah, I just talked to Joe and Rebecca about that, and this is what I know. And it helps tremendously keep projects moving forward. And I think it helps us stay on the cutting edge of getting funding from the state or feds. We've been very successful in that arena, and I'm glad. And I'd like that to continue for as long as possible. So really want to lift up the collaboration, because without it, I wouldn't have as many things to share with you, and we would not be able to check off projects like we do. I am moving farther down to arts and culture. Summer is always when we see an uptick in events, and I have to lift up not only our small business development team, but the Kellogg Arena, Penetrator events, the Black Sheep, and the Arts and Culture Collaborative, all working on ways to bring events and to think differently about culture in our community, to lift up all the great things we have and maybe fill some gaps that we don't have. Perfect that we're coming off of Juneteenth, because I missed it for the first time in a very long time, but I heard it was a phenomenal event. Now, there is something that we love to lift up and talk about every day. Every year, I think Juneteenth improves upon itself, and we have such great times when we have that. So kudos to that whole committee. This year, the Service on the Go pop-ups that Jessica and the city team is working on was at Juneteenth this weekend. And just a lot of positive feedback from that. Matter of fact, I was in a meeting this morning with Todd Gerber, and he's like, I didn't hear anything from Juneteenth, like there was a problem. We were working on the splash pad because the timer unit broke. I thought Todd was going to drive to, I forgot where the part was coming from. He goes, because that is going to open for Juneteenth. It's going to be hot. We need that splash pad open. But I said, yeah, because everything was relatively smooth, or at least it didn't rise to, we better call the city and get them to fix that, or something didn't happen. So kudos to everybody. Not hearing sometimes is a good thing, but I did hear a lot of positive things. Let's see, I think you're pretty much caught up. You know, the governance area is ongoing for us. That's more of the internal facing projects and services. The biggest one is the replacement of our ERP. I got an update about that this morning. I mean, that's the financial software system that we use that basically manages and monitors all things money for the city. And when we first talked about replacing it with Linda Morrison, she said, please make sure you do that after I retire. I cannot survive another ERP transition. But so she didn't, she retired, but we are in the process and we hope to be live in 2025. So we're really excited that Erin Kuhn and Amanda, she is leading that in finance. They're working through getting us a new ERP and we're excited about that. You know what I should have lifted up in recreation is the whole Claude Evans Park. And every time I say it, I look at Commissioner Morris and I look at Commissioner Reynolds and I say to myself, that is a very large project. And every time we think we're at a point, something else comes up. The bids are due back the 20th. That's this week, Thursday. So we will know, you know, good or bad, we will know what they're anticipating as far as what they think it's going to cost based on the bid documents, and then what are our options. You know, if they're just astronomical, we'll have to think about considering a rebid, or is there a way that we can kind of piece this together, work it over 2 construction seasons and maybe do it, but we'll see. Whew, it's construction season and there's a lot going on, as you know. I just got a note from somebody about Capitol Avenue, you know, that first layer has been peeled off. And that always makes people a little upset about Capitol, but please know once it's peeled off and a new is there, you'll be so happy that it is. I'm loving the resurfacing on 94. I don't know how many of you have been on it, but I'm like, wow, this is great. So we look for that at Capitol Avenue as well. And yes, they are going to paint the city of Battle Creek on that Capitol Bridge. They've started some of the painting. I don't know when they're going to finish, but I'm excited to see that as well. Let's see, keep going. I'm almost to the last one here as far as the notes I highlighted. You know, the work that Kimberly's doing in our DEI office has been, you know, amazing. You know, she basically started with nothing and she is creating a program and an office and a support system. I think that's going to be the best one in Southwest Michigan, but I'm biased. You know, she is working with the COB and I've seen the draft of the DEI action plan. So I'm really excited when that will be ready in a final format to share with the commission and with the community, because, you know, her office will be both internally and externally facing. So that's pretty exciting. Comms team, while they plan, you know, we're planning for a transition with Jessica, who will be leaving us at the end of July. That doesn't mean that work has stopped. I've heard so many positive comments about the pre and the post commission agenda podcasts that Jessica does, Jessica and Eric. They really like those. It kind of breaks down the commission meetings in, I guess, a less bureaucratic way, because, you know, you hear all the time, people like, I don't understand what you're asking or what this agenda item means or where. You know, hopefully people are going out and taking a look at those pre and post discussions because they're incredibly helpful and they're not as bureaucratic as just looking at the agenda and wondering what it all means. So kudos to the comms team for the work they're doing there. And then, of course, I'm really excited about the service on the go, those pop-ups. You know, we're getting some positive feedback already. And I think this was only our second one, if I'm remembering. That's a lot. I think I got all the way to the bottom. And that's really just our whole work plan item. The agenda tracker you already see, and you know, we are moving things off of the tracker to the agenda as they're ready for consideration by the commission. And so that is my highlight. If I didn't hit a question you might have, please let me know and I'd be happy to talk about it. And then I would just ask the committee to consider moving this forward for approval by the commission.
Excuse me. So Rebecca, you were meeting with commissioners individually to go over the work plan. What kind of feedback did you get? Were there a lot of additions or questions or anything like that as a result of those?
Thank you for reminding me. Yeah, they were good discussions, good questions. We did not have any additions.
Okay.
And we might have tweaked a couple of items or just made them more understandable with the language, but no, I did not have any additions and I had no requests to remove anything either.
Okay. So then you would need a recommendation from this body to move that to the full commission for approval. Is that correct?
Yes, Vice Mayor.
Move for approval.
Motion by Commissioner Reynolds,
Support.
support from Commissioner Morris to move that forward. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So Rebecca, whenever you want to put it on the agenda for the full commission to consider, that's fine. Is there any other committee discussion, anything else that anybody wanted to talk about today?
Nope. I don't have
Okay.
anything.
Uh, So the next to last item on the agenda is a next committee meeting date. We usually meet every other month, so that would be August. Perhaps Rebecca, you could have Becca, or I don't know if that's a Becca thing or a Vicky's office thing. Do a doodle poll to find out what works for the members of the committee.
Yes, Vicky, if you'd like me, I can ask Becca to send the doodle.
Okay. All right, so Rebecca, if you would take care of getting the doodle for an August meeting. And if there's no other business before the committee, we will adjourn.
Thank you, everyone. Vice Mayor,
All
could you stay on for just a minute?